When you're chasing greatness, just remember, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do.
Hello, you guys. LOL Podcast Season 3, Episode 8. I actually almost forgot that again, but most people could just read a YouTube title. Hopefully they do, because a lot of people have problems with reading patch notes, so I can't imagine they read a YouTube title. So I'm actually joined here by CLG Summer Scott. So what I would like you to do is introduce yourself, tell us who you are, your experiences in League, and yeah, you have the floor. It's all yours.
Cool. Yes. Hi, I'm Summer Scott. I am head of player development for Counter Logic Gaming. I suppose my main role is to be an overall mentor for the coaches and players within CLG, helping them build their mental resilience, working on their personal development and professional development.
Okay. So that goes with like interacting with pretty much everybody inside of all of the esports that CLG is a part of, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, across the board, just kind of help out where help is needed at any given time.
Okay, so when you're interacting with, say, like the CSGO team, they're all primarily trying to be the best. How would you say interacting with them is a lot more different than interacting with someone like in the League scene?
I would say the differences between teams are largely to do with the different personalities and group dynamics more than anything else. Sometimes you're going to get a team that really loses itself if it's not like the number one priority is having fun, and then the work comes secondary to that. Other teams are like, no, we need to be very strict and we need to be very wellness focused, and we need to use every bit of our mental toughness to almost like suffer through a season and come out the other side awesome. And in a culture like that, it's kind of like, hey, if I put you under pressure, if you're a piece of coal under pressure, can I just like pressure you to the point of creating a diamond, right? It's a very difficult kind of atmosphere and not everyone can survive it very well. So I would say that that's really bred by the different group dynamics and the different culture that you're going to see set team to team. And that can be player driven, it could be coach driven, or some combination of the two.
So from your field, what is the most you expect out of a player, and what is that you hope to gain out of them too?
I mean, the most I expect out of the player is what the player expects out of themselves.
Okay.
You know, I can't want something for you more than you do, you know?
That's true.
I am here to help facilitate your thought process, help you problem solve things, and help you overcome barriers that you perceive that are in your way. I can even help you identify some barriers that you have not recognized yet. But in terms of motivation and understanding like what the end goal is for someone, that is very player driven.
Okay. So what barriers have you ever come across that a player has not been able to overcome? What will be like a common one?
Like this is not because it's unovercomable. It's just something that's happened. But, you know, confidence issues is probably one of the biggest things.
Okay.
What I've noticed is many players come into their esport kind of resting their personal identity on being a gamer and being a very good one. It's almost like there's not a lot else going on for that person.
Mm-hmm.
So if they are encountering instances in their practice or in their competitive play that would suggest to them that they were not good, they're not a good player anymore, it's very disruptive to their overall success. Because if they lose that identity of being a good player, they've lost themselves, and there goes like all of the motivation as well. So I would say that's actually a pretty common one that I run into. And a lot of my work is working with players to help them understand that they are awesome human beings in their own right. No matter what game they're playing, no matter what they're actually doing with their lives, they do matter. They are a person of value. And this could be helping them understand like what about their personality is very helpful to a group. understanding their strengths and weaknesses as a gamer, strengths and weaknesses as a leader as well. And also sometimes you just have like some random assets that you're bringing to the table that are pretty circumstantial, but are very helpful around like to the people that they're around at the time. So we do that to help them succeed within the group environment. And also I am very focused on, hey, you're not going to be gaming forever, right? How do I actually set you up for success beyond your career as a professional player?
So you're telling me I'm not going to be gaming at 50 years old in the LCS, potentially?
Potentially. I mean, as far as we know right now, that's not something that we see good precedents for. But we also know that esport diverges from traditional sport in a lot of ways. So it could be. And we know that, we have some nice NFL players that are making it all the way into their mid-40s still playing the game, right?
Steve Nash played until he was 43, 44. I was like, bro, you need to stop, dude. You're breaking bones as he was running.
Yeah. So, like, if you can actually train an elite athlete to be pummeled for that many years of their life, I'm sure an argument could be made at some point that maybe we need to refine our practices and how we train within esport to increase career longevity. And that is actually one of the big focuses of my job, which is, hey, how do we reevaluate this? How do I work with physical therapists and neuroscientists and various disciplines to see, like, how can we reinvent the training process and increase the career longevity for each gamer that comes through CLG.
So coming into this year, what was the biggest thing you wanted to achieve so far with CLG? It could have been a minor little goal like, hey, we need to do this better so it overall makes us get better throughout the future, or did you want to do something more like physical, more like, hey, I want you guys to all like work out together or something of that nature?
I would say I was very inspired by this increase in career longevity. Okay. I'm very concerned about the overall health and wellness of the gamers that come through CLG. I participated in a really awesome summit in New York at the end of last year, and it was all about key health concerns that you may have, whether it be repetitive stress injury, mental health injuries, burnout, I consider a mental injury, if you will. So that really kind of inspired me to say, hey, how can we be a little bit more pointed and systematic about how we educate our players, and how can we insert things into the training routine that don't take away from the needed time playing the game and discussing the game, but also are simple enough to put in that would overall help somebody extend their career or keep injuries at bay.
Okay. So before you went, I first discovered Scott, you guys, by watching like a CLG clip they did on Twitter where she was talking about what was going on right now, and then it came into my mind that I think the topic was like women in esports. So you told me before that there's not that many women in esports overall. It's kind of a minority in it of itself because of like the gamer demographic being more targeted toward males. So how did you get into esports actually?
I would say that I've been gaming like all my life. It's been a guilty pleasure since I was a child. I just didn't have people to look up to. I didn't understand that esport was a thing until well beyond my college years, which is disappointing because I could have potentially been a pro gamer if I would have known about it early enough. So that has always been like in my DNA and fabric. I've used different games to kind of explore various aspects of my personal identity at any given time, or using it as different coping mechanisms at any given time, like winding down and expressing my creativity through designing buildings in The Sims, right? Or trying to escape my own life by playing out the actual scenarios for them. Trying to explore my more aggressive side. And as a woman, like that's very difficult understanding like when you can be aggressive, right? So playing Call of Duty just to like let out steam and be like one of the dudes in a way. I also really liked, I know it's awful, and at this point in my life, I'm annoyed by being the token female, but it was actually at the time very satisfying to be the token female where like whenever I beat someone, my whole team was just like You got beat by a girl.
Oh, that, yeah. No, I told some of my friends, it's like, like, you don't see a lot of guys doing makeup, so, like, if you take that and you apply it to gaming, it's like, you're not gonna see a lot of girls gaming, but it's like, gaming isn't like makeup, it's not, like, confined. Gaming is universal. You'll see 50-year-old guys still to this day playing Call of Duty, destroying people. It's like, gaming overall, I think, has moved from a stigma of only guys playing it to girls playing it, but it's just the girl side is growing. So, like, you guys in CLG have a female CSGO team, right? What's called CLG Red?
Yep.
So for them, are there stories similar like yours? They were always like that token female that was in their guy group beating all their friends. So I would ask, so what was their overall barrier to break into being more competitive and actually breaking that mold?
I would argue the probably most obvious one is that people are pretty freaking toxic when it comes to you being a woman in their space. And there are some that are not very shy about letting you know that you're on borrowed time when you are in their space. Saying, this place was not designed for you. You're not welcome as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to make sure that you know about it. And if you do well, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure I distract you and make you not do well anymore. And if I can't distract you and make you not do well, at least I can hope to ruin your day. That is just the mentality that a few shameless few kind of come through and ruin it. And we've all encountered this person, whether it be a sexist person or just like some other sort of bigoted person that just wants to ruin people's day. And even those that just have that selfishness about them where they're like, I'm having a bad day. I don't like this game. I'm just going to run it down,
Yeah.
I feel like that is one of the biggest barriers to entry. And CSGO is very difficult because a lot of people play with comms on, right? So if you're going to actually do the right thing and cooperate with your team, the correct way to do that is to actually use voice communication. But if you do that, you immediately identify yourself as a woman and you immediately put a target on your back.
So what I would say is, what can you give advice to girls out there who want to eventually be in either your spot or be a pro gamer? Is that, how do you break out and challenge that, and how do you make a difference though?
I would say, like, when people are attacking you, recognize that whatever they're saying is not really about you. It's about a problem with them, that they cannot reconcile that you would have a space here for whatever reason. And they're trying to project that pain that they have, that inability to understand your place in the world. And they're trying to project that pain onto you. And as annoying and as disruptive as it could be, just trying to keep your center and being like, you still have a job to do. And your job is to play this game because it's what you love to do. And your job is also to get better and to continue to prove that your space is a worthy space. Because that in and of itself is one of the best ways that you can bring more women in, by demonstrating that you're not going anywhere and leading by example. Like, your presence there is an example.
So do you think eventually the LCS could have an all-female team, like they almost did back in the day with Team Siren?
I don't know. It's not particularly useful to just make a female team for the sake of making a female team.
Yeah.
Like, when we talk about women being underrepresented in gaming, it is not like when you say gaming and esport, they're two different things. Because esport is very male-centric because it chooses a specific kind of competition that people like to view. So for instance, there's been plenty of studies on reaction speed.
Okay.
And we know that reaction speed just tends to favor men for a variety of reasons. So looking at that, when you have games that when their core fundamentals require you to just react quickly, then it's going to favor men in terms of the ability to perform it much of the time. So when you're looking at shooters, for instance, there are going to absolutely be a set of women that are going to match the bar with the men. But statistically speaking, if you're going to follow the research, it is not going to be a fair a fair amount across the board. But if you look at some of the other things that women have been known to be to excel at, like decision making, specifically when it comes to risk assessment, women are very talented at. We know that from like studies on Wall Street, where like female brokers just tend to overall generate better revenue because their understanding of risk assessment is much stronger. So when you have a game, say like Hearthstone, which is like, hey, this is strategy, this is risk assessment, right? Then you're going to see more women have an equal playing field with the men, but it's not as popular to watch, right? So that's kind of like the biggest issue. If you're going to say that you want more gaming women to engage in esport, then the selection of what esports to endorse becomes one of the key issues. But I mean, I can't recall the specific numbers, but the numbers of women who game are not very divergent from the men that game. The women just select different games and find joy in different games.
Okay, so like women are not going to find traditionally more, let's say, enjoyment out of playing CSGO for 40 hours a day, streaming 8 hours a day kind of thing. They'll rather play like Tetris or something like that.
I mean, yeah, and it could be because their skill sets lend themselves to it. It could be about the community. I mean, I know from personal experience, if I actually want to wind down at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is be heckled. So if the community does not freaking support me, then I'm just going to go and play something else. I'd much rather play a single player game that I can control what I get out of it than engage in a community that is like disruptive to my own mental. And like, that's my personal choice. I can't speak for all women. But I know that is like definitely something that I consider.
So what I would ask you is, how did you ever end up working for CLG?
So as I said, I've been gaming for a really long time. I've always enjoyed games. So when I was in college, I would like go to class, come back, and I would be sitting playing Call of Duty, right? Like, so I've always wanted to engage in them. And when I was finishing up my bachelor's in psychology, I was actually watching an EU LCS broadcast. It was like season 3 at the time. And they had a little featurette of I think a PhD candidate in sports psychology that was working with an European team and seeing for his like overall thesis whether or not sports psychology can be applied to the field of esport. And that just kind of got my wheels turning. I was just like, wait a minute. You tell me I can blend psychology, which I'm studying, and gaming, which I love to do at the end of the day, and just like interweave them, you know? Like, so that was like really inspirational to me. And I didn't take action on it right away. It was probably another 2 years before I even decided to really get into it. But I was watching a panel it was a women in esport panel. And oddly enough, Miss Harvey, who is now joined CLG and is part of CLG, she was speaking on the question, why do you not see more women in esport? And she was just like, honestly, there's just not enough of us here. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, wait a minute. This is what other women need to feel empowered. They need to see other women in the space doing well or just being there for them to feel comfortable. Well, hell, like if that's all it's going to take, I'm there. Let me do this.
You can be that beacon. You can be that Mark Twain. You can be that Michael Jordan for women in esports. But you never know that. And a lot of people don't know this is that like you can be doing what you love and inspire other people just by your presence being there. That's what I told people. You know, I remember like for YouTube when I first started doing it, like just someone doing it just made me want to do it. And just it wasn't even what they were talking about. It's just I wanted to do what they were doing because I feel like I could do it too. But what I would ask is working for an esports org, what is your like overall impressions to give somebody else who wants to work with an esports org?
Go for it.
That's it?
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
is it like all it's cracked up to be? You know, it's all rainbows and sunshines. You finally got your esports job. You know.
No, I would say like it's hard work all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of continuing on from how I was getting in after
Mm-hmm.
I had that kind of call to action from Miss Harvey. I literally just Googled esports psychology and wanted to see how far I could get. And that's when I found Weldon Green's website that he had at the time, Mind
Mm-hmm.
Games. And I was like, he had a blog, and I was like, can I write for this blog? Can I just
Mm-hmm.
see if what I have to say is worthwhile to other people? And it took me like easily a week just to muster up the wherewithal to write him an email. I was freaking terrified to write this guy an email. And it's so funny because like fast forward several years, I was the one who was just like, hey, do you want to come to CLG and like work for us as the coach? Because like we need a head coach and you seem great, right? Like, so it's crazy like how full circle these things come.
Yeah.
I work with Stephanie on projects now within CLG. She was the one who inspired me to get in, but like, yeah, we are now like next to each other. So I would say that's like the first lesson that you have to learn. Like, understand it does not matter where you're starting from. You have no reason to doubt yourself. You have no reason to doubt yourself even after you fail, because that was the first failure that you needed out of 1,000 to get where you need to be.
So when you went on about hiring Weldon, what was the criteria you guys wanted to meet at that time? Because at that moment in time, I remember it was CLG and you guys let go of Zix because you guys had a bad split and things happen. Things always happen. It's not always going to work out. So what was the criteria by getting Weldon? What did he show you that you wanted to get out of a head coach?
I can say at the time I had not worked up the ladder as far as I have now. But from what I understood at the time, we really wanted to start pushing the boundaries of how we can develop teams. And it wasn't so much of like a direct affront to Zix. It was more like how do we get new ideas in place? How do we start challenging ourselves on how we structure things and what additional things that we can implement that would take the team to a new level. And alongside of that, Weldon had been doing a lot of great work up until that point, doing all of his boot camps.
TSM, G2. Yeah.
And like he was able to kind of demonstrate his value in that particular respect over and over again. He really does challenge the status quo in terms of how esport teams traditionally train. And I feel like that was the primary motivation. I was like, I heard that kind of sentiment and I was just like, hey man, if that's what you're really after, my friend happens to be working with TSM right now. I can call him and he can come over here for an interview. So, I mean, that's kind of how it all came to be.
And then later on, during that split, you guys had Weldon, you guys still had Darshan and Power of Evil, and it was coming back together, because, like, the previous split, you guys had, like, Biofrost and Stixay, and it wasn't really, like, something just didn't click that year with Reignover. Could you, go over any reasons why it just didn't click that year with Reignover? Because I remember CLG really wanted Reignover, and he finally got Reignover, and it just didn't really work out. And as we all know, sometimes it just doesn't work out, but is there any particular reason why you think it didn't work out?
That was a while ago. I'm trying to think.
That's 27. That's what, 2018 spring? 2018 spring and summer, yeah.
Yeah, it was actually my first split with CLG.
Franchise. Yeah, it's franchise system. It just got franchised.
Yeah. It's just like one of those really difficult things. From what I remember from that roster, it was a roster of insanely kind people.
That's a good thing, right? It's really a good thing.
You would think it was a good thing, but there was no instigator on that team. It was a lot of people being like very kind to each other, being like, yeah, no, of course, like, do you. If someone was making a mistake, it's just like, oh, yeah, I know he's working on it. And like inside, it was very frustrating. It's just like, this is not getting better. This is not getting better. But like, there was almost like an unwillingness just to be like, hey man, I need you to do better for me. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that Michael Jordan push. Like, I remember Michael Jordan literally getting people kicked off his team if they weren't putting in the work. So you felt like there was a lack of that Michael Jordan push there.
Yeah, there was just like a lot of people that were very kind-hearted and gentle. And because of all that, it was like being supportive of some habits that weren't necessarily pushing people to their highest potential. So that's like another example. It's an example of how different team dynamics can like work or not work. And it doesn't really matter about the actual talent on the team when it comes to the esport. It has to do with like, does me standing next to you bring out me and my best self? And like, I've even encountered this. Like I would argue with some coaches I even work with. There's one that comes to mind. I don't want to call him out, but he's the kind of person that is very used to always being the smartest person in the room. The assumption is that he is right. We roll in with that. What he's saying is the thing. And I am the kind of person where I always walk into a room with the assumption that I have the most to gain, most to learn from the people around me. And I think they are both really useful approaches. One is coming in with like pure unadulterated confidence, saying like, I am here to lead you and this is what I have to say. And I would argue that my approach is still a leadership style, but it's just like, hey, I'm here to lead you. Help me lead you.
But a great leader can also learn too.
Yeah, it's just like, tell me what you believe the way forward is. So it's like, tell me what you believe the way forward is, and I'm telling you what the way forward is. And the two different styles, and when they kind of collide, it ends up like really with not a lot of discourse. Because I'm going to assume that I have the most to learn from the guy who believes that he's the smartest person in the room. There's nothing that's going to be challenged, right? I'm going to automatically say, of course, let me follow your lead, because that's what I naturally do. And typically it does work out. But like when there's nobody there to actually challenge, it does not bring out the best in either.
Okay. But what fast forward, we had the whole split where after that you guys started to bring in Ruin, because you guys let go of Darshan. And then what would you say has been the better part of how COG has been ran since you've been there? Has things have been pretty smooth overall? You enjoy working there overall?
Yeah, I do enjoy working there overall. And it really comes down to, I'm a people person. I really do enjoy engaging with the different players and staff, because my role is supporting their journey. In whatever shape that comes in, it's about how do I help uplift you? And it's a very inspiring environment to be in as a result, because you get to put your whole focus in people just making themselves better. And you can't really look at that without being like, man, like I'm kind of excited for the ways that I'm going to get better too. And it does happen. It just kind of like rubs off. Like I learn new things and I challenge myself to be better, because I know that I need to grow and be better in order to meet the new challenges that the players or coaches are facing. So I'll go out and get more information. I'll talk to more experts. I'll figure out the new ways so that they can push themselves to higher and higher feats.
Have you ever worked with Song, actually?
Yes. Okay.
So what will be like something that maybe Song has taught you? Or maybe you taught him? Or does he have that strict Korean style where he's like, we got to do things this, and this way, hard work, no fun?
You'd be surprised, as like he has a very strategic approach to the game. Yes, he believes that the game should be played in a very specific way, and that if you're failing, it's because a lot of times you varied from the plan in a way that was not going to lead to success in the first place. So it's very easy and systematic to kind of break down strategy in that vein. And I feel like people get the wrong idea about him sometimes, because when you talk to him and kind of look him in the eye, he really does have a tremendous amount of care that he puts into the game that goes far beyond just strategy. Like when he's having a hard day and he recognizes the player is having a hard day, his first instinct is like, hey, let me just take this guy out, just talk to him for a little bit and see if I can't make it better. And I think that's such an admirable quality. And I won't say that any one of the people within CLG is absolutely perfect. But I will say that every single person has qualities like that, where you can just see such genuine interest in them. And a lot of times that genuine interest comes down to just doing their job in the best way they possibly can for the people that they're working with.
I met Weldon at the LCS, and we talked for almost probably like 15 minutes, and the game was actually going on, and I was like, wait a minute, I talked to this guy for 30 minutes and probably learned so much in just this span of time, because he went over like the psychology of how to make a team better, and I was like, oh my lord, I'm literally getting gold right now. I was like, oh my god. So out of your experiences with Weldon, because most people kind of consider him like a great coach and he always knows a lot, what have you learned from him actually about how having your interactions with him?
Honestly, I learned from him that my input was actually valid. Going all the way back to when I first applied to write for him, this was me being unusefully humble. And I finally wrote to him, and he was very excited, very welcoming to me, to bring me into the conversations with other people that had masters and PhDs. He just said, please come into my community and learn. And I learned very quickly in those exchanges, nobody gave a crap that I had just a BA in psychology. I was able to have all the conversations that I needed to have and learn everything that I needed to learn, to the point that like no one ever even questioned my credentials. And that was really important. I think that people are trying to get into esport and they're just like, oh, should I like go and get this like esport degree? Because I know that my college offers it and all this other kinds of stuff. And I'm like, so much of what you're gonna learn is by getting on the job, interacting with people, understanding what problems there are that you are gifted to fix. I would argue that much of what makes me impactful in my role has everything to do with who I am as a person. And like the rest, like if you just need to learn something, go read it, go ask somebody. They're just going to tell you what you need to know. But like how you engage with it and why you are motivated to do it, those are the things that I encourage everyone to be in touch with. And that is something that I learned during my tenure, like working with Weldon on Mind Games. He trusted me implicitly to be able to do the job because he recognized that I could actually do the work and never questioned whether or not I can understand what the knowledge behind it was. He just knew that I was the kind of person that could do it.
Were there any team atmospheres before COG that led you into that? Did you work on any teams previously before that?
Yeah. So when I was working on Mind Games, I was, like I said, like insanely humble in the situation. I was just like, hey, if anyone's doing a project, like, please let me help out. And Weldon started doing the boot camps at that time. And I was like, dude, if you ever need help, if you need an intern, let me know. And finally, he was going to do one with Team Liquid. And Team Liquid at the time was the first team to pilot the 10-man roster.
I remember that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So long ago.
And as a result, he's like, I can't be in two places at once. Can you please come and help me? While I'm working with the LCS team, you'll split and work with the academy team as well. And that way they're getting help from both sides. And I was just like, yeah. So that was like my first time actually having really great experience on the field. Like I had so many conversations, understood, had done conferences, all these things, but like really wanted to just get my hands dirty. And that was a really great opportunity for me to start applying the skills like in real time.
So which pros did you interact with? So that back then, 2016, that's around that time, right? That's around.
Yeah, so Loco Doco was coaching.
Dardock, Morlo.
Piglet, Dardock,
Oh my. So you interacted with Piglet.
Yes.
So how was it? Because a lot of people have this perception that he's a crybaby, and because of that whole breaking point part of the YouTube video that they had. So like, what was your interactions with Piglet? Since the public perception of him is like kind of low.
I would say like it's a hard time to give a good impression to people because I feel like the sport was trying to evolve faster than the people could.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I know.
So that's why you saw so much turnover, because like you just could not personally develop yourself fast enough and wrap your head around what was being asked of you fast enough, and people had no choice but to force the evolution by changing out rosters. And it did cause a lot of stress on teams during that kind of transition where people were constantly pushing for harder and harder things. And I think Piglet is definitely one of them where he's like, I've achieved success. I know how I achieve success. Please stop telling me how to achieve success. Like, and it seemed like just bonkers to him at the time because he's just like, how am I being questioned? Because like I've already proved myself.
Yeah.
Why am I being asked to prove myself over and over and over again? And I feel like that's the core question that all of us need to ask ourselves. Is just like, why do we need to prove ourselves over and over again? Because we need to constantly grow every day. That's why. We need to prove that we can best ourselves.
Yeah.
We can be the better person today than we were yesterday.
You've interacted with so many different pros that people probably have seen grow throughout these years too.
Yeah. Like even on that academy roster for that 10-man, oddly enough, I had Smoothie there.
I remember.
David Lynn was coaching. And Smoothie was the support. He actually had been benched at the time.
I remember.
Because Loco was telling me that he wasn't motivated. And I was looking at this kid. I'm just like, what? I just remember being like, I don't know what you're seeing, man, because he seems pretty freaking hungry. This is one of the guys that's going to be successsul.
What's weird? Now you have Smoothie on CLG. That is so weird.
I'm telling you, like the full circle kind of aspect of this is pretty nutty. But yeah, he was like one of the first really standout players to me, like kind of working and understanding and speaking with him. Like I just remember sitting in a chair behind the 5 of them, and it's just like this apartment building where it's just a row of 5 desks across the living room, and just kind of looking at them and seeing like who felt intensity, who was just kind of like showing up. And I just remember Smoothie sitting there, leg jiggling, going like staring into his screen, just like talking as fast as he could because he wanted to get his team the information. He just had so much energy in everything that he was doing. And I was just like, I understand that having a lot of energy in you when it's improperly directed can be very damaging. And that's kind of like what I suspected was happening there. Like you need to have laser focus when you are somebody that has insane potential, because those people that have the absolute potential to be the highest elite, they have so much in them. They don't have a rest day. They are constantly with this really high intensity self. And with that becomes a very difficult job, because if you have all that energy, you have to bring the laser in all the time. Because if it gets diffuse, it's just going to burn everything. So now
working with Smoothie, so you guys have actually had a pretty, let's say, poor split by a lot of people's standards. CLG is like, 10th place currently right now as the spring goes over. So what would you say was the biggest thing that caused that? If you could go over that, if you don't want to, it's perfectly fine.
So actually, like for me at this point with the league team, I understand the overall structure. But we've actually built out the infrastructure of that team such that I don't work with the individual players as closely anymore.
Okay.
So Weldon has kind of taken over the role of dealing with that one-on-one mental coaching aspect of things. But part of the program at CLG is that we educate all of our gamers in Korean because we have so many Korean players. So we have English lessons for our Korean players and Korean lessons for our English-speaking players. And he's in my Korean class because I'm learning too.
You're learning Korean?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is it actually hard?
Yeah. It's like, it's a different language. It's a very different structure and it's challenging, but it's a lot of fun. But it's like necessary because I've been to Korea plenty of times where I've been like, what is going on? I can't read any of these signs. And I know how isolating it can feel to try to figure that out. So knowing that, I was like, we gotta fix this. We can't be investing in having Korean import players and not do them the solid of learning back. So I created the opportunity for everyone to learn the language if they wanted to. And Smoothie was one of the people who was just like, hell yeah. If you're going to give me a lesson, I'm going to learn. Yeah, of course. And that just kind of demonstrates that he's not only a stand-up guy, but he's insanely motivated. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be a great League of Legends player and I'm going to learn Korean too, because I know that I want to develop myself. And that's like a very admirable thing about him.
NA and importing people. Now they're importing the Korean system into it too. Oh my gosh. But what I want to ask, since you actually are in the scene, is that about the NA things that we do, like no best of threes anymore. Academy scene is kind of seen as a retirement home, and player burnout, because you wanted to go over that too. It was like player burnout. So my understanding of player burnout from things that you told me was that that doesn't really happen at the age people are saying it is. Because on Reddit, the narrative is, oh, player burnout happens at like 22. It's like, your career hasn't even peaked at 22. How's that? That doesn't even make factually, that even just factually doesn't make any sense if you even look at it from a comprehensible standpoint. So can you like go over that of like why do people think that your esport career is over at like 25, 22?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because many people, kind of going back to my original statement, many people misidentify themselves with gaming, where they don't actually build the foundation beyond it. So for me, I feel like that kind of system is extremely taxing on your mental, because when you lose, you're not just losing a match that you can recover from. It's just like, no big deal. Okay, like I'm going to learn what I can, and then I'm going to take it into the next games. Like, your entire being is coming into question every single time you step onto that rift on a stage. And if you can imagine times that you felt confronted on a fundamental level where your entire identity is being in question, it is insanely difficult to handle that. So that is one of the biggest contributors that I've noticed to players just becoming burnt out. They're not actually finding the balance. And a lot of times it's kind of misconstrued as this like work-life balance. But in gaming, there's no work-life balance. We all know this. We're gamers. Gamer is life. We breathe games, man. So it's just, you need to be able to balance your life. And by balancing your life, it means saying that you need to make sure that as many games as you'd like to play, you are still doing the basics and setting up your foundations for success. You need to make sure that you're actually sleeping. Yes, a human being needs to still sleep. You need at least 7 hours a day. I don't really care what you tell me. Like, you need at least 7 hours a day, because why? You're not just a gamer, you're also a freaking human being, right? Like, come on.
Are you telling me I can't stay up 24 hours a day in gaming?
Yes.
Dang it! Well,
and I will hang up on you right now if you tell me otherwise.
No, you're right. My girlfriend is, she's forcing me to do it too. I was like, I don't want 7 hours of sleep. I want 4. No, you are getting 7. There
are like a few really wackadoodle people that can skate by on 4, but by and large, it's just not going to happen. And like the craziest thing is just like, dude, I don't need this sleep. I can still play. Just because you're awake does not mean you are performing at peak. There's a very big difference between being able to survive versus thrive in a situation. And when you are going after elite performance, which a lot of people are, because they're not just trying to play, you're not in casual games, you're in ranked and you're trying to scale up. So that means you're after increasing your performance level. So if you're going to have the increase in performance level mindset, then you better get straight on what that actually means. And it means that you need to optimize everything about your gaming. And by the way, you game by having a very well-functioning brain and well-functioning fingers. So if you're not taking care of these things, then you're working against yourself immediately. So setting up those physical foundations is really important. Making sure that you're sleeping, making sure that you're exercising. And if you can't exercise, because that's a reasonable concern for people, whether or not they're trying to build an exercise routine or you have an injury that keeps you from like exercising really hard, just being active. And when I say active, I mean stand up for 5 minutes after you get out of a league match. Like, that's all it takes. When you're sitting down over time, the brain starts to pool in your lower extremities. So just by standing up, moving around, and getting the blood pumping again, now you're counteracting that blood pooling in your legs and you're putting it back into your brain. By the way, brain needs blood and oxygen. So make sure it gets it, right? These are such simple things that go a very long way. By building those physical foundations, you're now setting the stage for real success. So that is one of the key fundamentals to starting to bring this burnout question, out of play. Burnout often comes down to you just being out of whack for too long. Like, you've been out of balance for too long, and eventually you just run out of resources. And these are the kinds of things that you need to do to refuel yourself all along. A way to kind of think about this is a car. If you are anything like me, you probably have driven your car a few too many times with that gas light kind of on empty, where you're just like, I can probably make it just, all right, no, I'm going to run to the store fast before I get to the gas station, right? You just like push it just a little bit too long, right? But like, that is not good for your car. It is not good for your car to run on fumes like that. You are damaging your car every single time you make that kind of decision. Same thing with like not refilling the oil, right? You can go and keep driving for a long time without refilling your oil. And like, I have the, hey, you should have refilled your oil a year ago sticker on my car right now. Like, I understand that. But you also know that the longer you do that, you're eroding your car, right? Like, you're just damaging your car. It's not to say that you couldn't drive. It's to say that you're also making the choice to actively damage it as you are driving. And that is what's happening to players' minds and bodies at the same time. You're making active choices on a day-to-day basis that push yourself, that feel good because you're like, oh, if I can just do a little bit more, I can gain extra. But by doing that, it's almost like making a deal with the devil, where you're just like, yeah, you can push just a little bit longer on this day, but I'm going to take your career longevity with me.
I don't think that's a fair trade.
No, it's not.
As you guys know, if you guys watch Ghost Rider, it's definitely not a fair trade.
It's not a fair trade. And that's what a lot of the conversation around burnout is like. It's like, stop making these deals with the devil. Stop making the choice to erode your body. I promise you, the time will come tomorrow where you will be able to engage with this in a better, stronger way. You'll be able to retain more information, learn faster, play smarter. You know, like, all of this is coming to play, but just take care of the body first with the sleep, the exercise, nutrition, sometimes using nootropics as well. Nootropics are things that you can take that enhance your brain ability. And this can be something as simple as caffeine, right? Using your caffeine in a smart way and not just like chugging a bunch of Red Bull or Game Fuel or coffee or what have you, but actually using it in a targeted way such that you're drinking it at a specific time. You know that it's right before you're trying to learn something, right? Like right before you're getting into a specific set of solo queue, you have a goal in mind, you drink the coffee, and now the coffee is facilitating your learning. Not, oh man, it's like 4 a.m. I just need like one more game. And then you just like start drinking caffeine. That is a very bad way of using caffeine. So I would say like those are like the main things when it comes to just trying to start short circuiting burnout. No, I do not believe that everybody should retire by the age of 25. And we're actually seeing that more and more, that the age of our players in League of Legends is getting older and older and older. The more systems that we have in place to keep them from doing this grind on themselves is coming through, where you are seeing that age slowly increase.
Like,
so
what was it?
It's working.
Smithy's like 29 years old. Soaz is probably almost 29 years old. They're still...
If I'm remembering correctly, one of my friends recently was just like trying to understand the jungler pool for NALCS right now. And he was just like, junglers are the oldest position in the NALCS right now.
That's crazy.
It makes sense because sometimes you're going to get away with like some less mechanically intensive champions. Sometimes you are seeing some interesting junglers coming to play. But most importantly, when we talk about the cognitive skills that make somebody really strong in an esport, you know, we were talking about like this gender issue. Reaction speed is one thing, right? But another thing is going to come from the strategic side. How well am I understanding the game? How well am I understanding the risk assessments of various plays? Do I go after a high risk, low reward play here? Or do I go for a sure thing? You know, like all of these different skill sets in terms of how you think as a person increase with age. Wisdom increases with age. So for a jungler role, that is very much a wisdom-based role, where some of the more carry-oriented roles, they're very like, they favor the younger players because it's just raw reaction speed. But like, classic example of like double lift Afromu couple.
Rush Hour bot lane.
His early career, like double lift was just like, dude, I'm just a cannon, man. Tell me where to fire, right? Because like you recognize that in his early career, he just had innate talent and he was just driven by innate talent, but not necessarily by the calculation aspect of it. His hands were doing it all. It wasn't necessarily his mind. And I feel like his evolution in his career is like also building the smarts on top of the hands.
It's kind of like Faker when he first showed up in Season 3. He was all mechanics, no brain. Then later on, when he became a smarter player, he became even better. That's what I told people, is that you can be really mechanically good at the game, but if you're not exactly smart, and you can tell it through their gameplay, they don't make exactly smart decisions. It's more like their mechanics are showing you that they are smart, but their overall game sense is not there. So, like, example is Griffin from the LCK. They were really good, but they weren't smart. And then once they got smarter, that's how they got better at the game. But then, well, later on, it didn't matter because they still lost at the very end. But, you know, the same still stands, I guess. The point's still there. You know, we see a lot of mechanically talented players start, and then later on, they're like, if I get smarter and I'm really good at the game, now you can't beat me.
And this is not just macro also. It's about micro too. Like the individual trades that you're going to make can also really benefit from just knowing how to do it, predicting the opponent more. And like the imagery that I always have is like those funny animes where it's like a fighting scene and you have the one guy rolling in, he's like a young gun and he's like, and then like the sensei is just like, just out. Like, that is like the parody of what we're talking about, where it's like you can really have a lot of mechanics, be very fast.
I like blabber.
You can have a lot of pizzazz about you, but like if you're smart, you just need the one opportunity. And when you know what that one window is and nail it every time, you don't need these crazy fast moves and fast hands. All you need is that know-how and like understanding the opportunity to capitalize on.
So I would say, now going into the summer split, what would be your guys' goals for the summer split?
So like I said, I'm not completely entwined with the LCS team right now. I would say that the goal is always to win.
Lifting another trophy. Having the faith.
I mean, I think that this team is very much like, hey, we just need a reset.
Okay.
We had some hard cards dealt to us earlier in the split, trying to figure out everything with Crown and then shifting to Pole Belter. I think people are coming into this split feeling like they have a stronger foundation. There have been nice adjustments made to the coaching staff to help the dynamics there and add better support systems to the overall team. So those are all really positive changes to look forward to. And the goal is not just to escape the season. The goal is to,
make
push
worlds.
Like this team can make worlds.
You're going to Korea and China again. You're like, okay, I'm happy with that. Free trip to China.
there is nothing that is mentally standing away in the way of this team. They're just like, we're a world's team. We just happened to have a weird last split. Yeah, rightfully so. And we had a lot to figure out, and we started out behind.
And one split, always shouldn't, one split or one bad play shouldn't always, determine how strong a player is. People always get in that trap of like, hey, this one player had a bad split and now they're finished. I'm like, no, a lot of great traditional sports pros have that. They have one bad year. It doesn't mean they're bad. It's just like things happen. You can't control those things. So now we're at the tail end of this because then you got to leave in a little bit. But is there anything you wanted to say, talk about, or?
I don't know. I want to leave on an empowering note, I think.
Tell me how good I did.
You're so good.
Oh, I thank you.
Conversation.
Yay.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I think it's I would say that I want more people to have this kind of information. It's really important. I feel like so many people see this great divide between these esports teams and what you want to do at home. And like the people at home, the people loving their games and trying to be better and pushing themselves, you're the ones that are going to be the next pros. Period. End of sentence. End of story. We need you to keep on pushing yourself. We're looking for the next new talent. So rise the frick up. And I want everyone to have the information that they need. And CLG is actually making a lot of pushes this year to try to get that information out. Like the Engine series, that's actually what I've been working on with Miss Harvey within.
Check that out, guys. It's really good. Check it out. That is really, really good. I learned a lot. I learned so much. Like, you learn something new every day, and that will teach you something. If you guys want to actively learn something, learn from that. That is good stuff right there.
Yeah, so it's on the CLG website. Additionally, like you can check out the Engine on YouTube as well. And that's just a great place to start because we're just getting started ourselves, but we want to hear from more people like, hey, we're going to give you the tip of the iceberg on these Engine videos. But if something is really calling out to you, just like, yes, please tell me more. Just like leave a comment there. That's very encouraging to us. And we're just like, yes, this is a topic that people really want to delve into. Then we can get more in depth and provide more information on that topic. So use that as a resource as much as possible, I would say. And also for people that don't necessarily have faith in improving as a player, but want to go after that staff side, like I said, like if you fail on one point of entry, that was the 1 in 1,000 that you needed in order to get to your end goal. Maybe me, I'm like on 100 failures out of 1,000, but I understand that I'm still on a very intense journey of constantly pushing myself and trying to do bigger and better things. And this year I was successful in getting more education out there for the players on terms of being healthier and pushing their career longevity longer and longer. Now I'm on to more diversity and inclusivity issues. Just getting people in the gaming community to understand that there's a lot that we can do as individuals just to make it a better place for everyone to game. And that is how you make your community the best, because that's how you derive the highest competition, not by limiting the pool to make sure that you're still the best. You're not the best. You're only the best of the people that you allowed in, right? But if you really want to be the best, you get everybody in, everybody pushing their absolute hardest and playing at their absolute peak. And if you can still beat them then maybe you can call yourself the best for that day in that moment. But you need to prove it over and over again.
So you're saying when I win 10 solo queues games in a row, I'm not Faker? Is that what you're telling me?
I would say even Faker is not Faker after 10 solo queue wins. He needs to prove himself every single day.
Time to play more
match.
Time to play more ARAM then, guys. It's confirmed. You play ARAM 10 games, you're Faker. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you should not celebrate your accomplishments. If you feel like you're actually doing a good job, that is another thing. When we were talking about confidence, I would say many people have a hard time celebrating a win when a win was deserved. But that is part of the journey. That is part of the motivation. If you don't make the win feel amazing for yourself, then what the hell are you fighting for? Why should you keep trying when all you're doing is beating yourself up as you're trying to climb up, right? So please take a moment, take stock, and enjoy every single moment that you have to build your confidence and understand that you are growing every single day as a person. You deserve that feeling of accomplishment when you've actually leveled yourself up. And then once you've had a moment to really appreciate and let it sink in that you're nailing it, then you get to say, okay, what's that next small thing that I can take on that's going to bring me to the next level?
Oh, yeah, we have 1 minute left. The thing I usually ask most guests is, are you watching any new shows right now? Any movies, any anime that you would recommend to anybody?
I've been watching The Avengers.
All right, guys, we're done. I'm just kidding.
No, I've been feeling it lately, and I started rewatching The Avengers, finished the first two, realized that I probably need more context, so now I'm going to go back and watch the Captain Americas and then come back to the Avengers. So it looks like I'm just on a Marvel hype train. But honestly, given the current climate in the world, a lot of those Marvel comics are based on really great principles about, understanding humanity, understanding civil rights, and just kind of being an advocate for the world when even at sometimes when the world doesn't love you back.
Yeah. I know that all too well. Good Lord.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of leaning on those. Those are my happy way of trying to unwind at the end of the day and also somewhat be inspired at the same time.
All right. See you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe, most of all enjoy. This is Summer Scott from CLG. She has a Twitter. I will link it in the description box below if you guys want to go follow her. You guys, great stuff over there. And yeah, I think I ordered that CLG jersey. I think I did. Unless my freaking, they always screws me over. Every time I order something, right now, the bank stops me. I was like, wait, why did this get ordered? They're like, can you confirm this is you? Yes, it's me. What the heck? I had to go to the bank yesterday because I made 6 Amazon transactions for something. They're like, oh, if you made too many transactions, it's not you. What does that even mean? I have to go there and tell this lady, no, this was me. This was literally me. I made all these transactions.
You know what? At least they're trying to help you out and make sure that you don't have a stolen card. So be thankful for that.
I was like, wait, I went to Del Taco. I was like, why can't I buy my fries? Your card's declined. I have money on my card a little bit. And it's like, no, it's your card. What?
Let me use what little money I have.
See you guys later. Have a good day. And that's it. Bye. I'm getting old. All right.